Hey friends, I've talked about it for years on Adventures in Design that one of the number one influencers in my life is the world of skateboarding. It's where I fell in love with art, design, but advertising and marketing. I would go on to be a guy in a band, who would go on to be a guy who did stuff for the music industry, who would go on to be a graphic designer, a poster maker, an illustrator, and every part of advertising that I would always go through. The thing that stuck with me was my love of skateboarding and what I learned from being a skateboarder in the 80s. I started skateboarding when I was 10 years old in 1984, and that world has never left me. So I thought it would be great to look at the roots of all this influence, the world of skateboarding that I fell in love with. So I went to random.org, it gave me 1988, and let's jump in and look at March 1988, Thrasher Magazine, at the art, the culture, the advertising, the marketing, and see what we can learn. There'll be some chicken nuggets in here for skateboarders. There'll be plenty of stuff in here for non-skateboarders. Everybody's welcome to come. Everybody's welcome to hang out. Let's begin our review of Thrasher Magazine, March 1988. Just a quick 31 years ago. One of the things I love about this period, and nobody did it better than Jim Phillips in Santa Cruz. Later in life, I'd have the privilege to go to his home in Santa Cruz and interview Jim Phillips. You can find that in the archives. But I love the hand-drawn type. If you look over here at the ad on our far left, and by the way, Santa Cruz always had the inside spread. When you look at this, the hand-drawn type is just absolutely amazing. This is thinking outside the font. This is somebody literally sitting down at a desk and drawing it out. It also embraces one of the things I learned about skateboarding where everything is a logo, right? Look how many logos are on this page. That's something that I always embrace. Always put a container around your messaging. Give it its own grip. When you look at Instagram and all of our peers, people just love making logos. Everything in skateboarding was a logo. Shocking gets attention. Maggots on a toothbrush makes your stomach turn. If you're a skate rat, this is the type of thing you love. At my age of 14, when I saw this magazine, probably didn't realize it's supposed to be a pubic hair on the toothbrush. Over on the right, we look at the simple rule. Remember, kids, gradients ruin everything. The Santa Cruz logo is great. It's sturdy. It's strong. At this point, they'd been around for 15 years. Today, they've been around for 46 years. Congratulations, Santa Cruz, but you gotta get rid of the gradient, and don't get me started on the color purple. And don't worry, we're not going through every page. I only picked out the best. On page 2, we see everything here is a classic. Just one classic after another. They even said at the top, not just another classic. Well, if we look at this, everything in this page is pretty much timeless. The Dogtown type is a classic logo. It's never gone out of style, still being sold today. Sturdy never goes out of style. Whether it's the motorcycle, whether it's Red Dog's outfit, whether it's the classic car, the shape of the skateboard, the primary colors, if you just keep it sturdy, if you keep it basic, you will never, ever go out of style. Sturdy never goes out of style, neither does wall rides. We move over to page 10 where we see an ad for Skate Master Tape. These potatoes look like anything that you would see an illustrator doing over on Instagram this very day. This type of illustration still exists. There's still people pursuing it. Unfortunately, Skate Master Tape, RIP. He passed away on October 13, 2015 at the early age of 56. If you are an old skate rat like me, you may remember him as the co-host of Nickelodeon's one season of Skate TV. For 13 episodes, you could watch skateboarding on your TV, and it was amazing. His co-host was the annoying Matthew Lynn, who's gone on to have a pretty good acting career. I love, though, the attitude of the skate rock. I love the attitude of this print. This design aesthetic is still alive today. The Chuck Taylors were created in the 20s. That means sometime soon, they will be having their 100th anniversary. Think about that. 100 years of Chuck Taylors. I've owned several pair, and I know you have too. In the 80s, they were trying to figure out their brand. They were trying to break into the skateboard market. They made the black sole, black lining Chucks. These look really good. I love the red ones. I love the navy ones. The black one, it's kind of lost, but you know me, I love black on black. But this ad goes to show that Thrasher made corporations bring their A game. They had to go into the world of skateboarding. They had to rethink their message, rethink their design, because you're in Thrasher Magazine. If you try that corporate shit, it's just not going to work here. Page 18, an ad for Megadeth. Not a bad career Megadeth has had. Still around 31 years later. Being a Metallica 31 years later would still be better than being a Megadeth. Sorry, Dave. So far, so good. So it was okay. The highlight of it was a Sex Pistols cover that Steve Jones actually played on, but due to Mustaine's struggle with drug addiction, he later said the production of So Far So Good, So What was horrible, mostly due to substances and the priorities we had or didn't have at this time. An honest evaluation of his own work. However, the album would go on to sell over 100,000 copies in the US and in Canada. Selling 100,000 of anything in Canada is like selling a million. Over on page 19, we see sort of the attitude that skateboarding was really great at having. This ad for Venture it's not just a job, it's an ad for Venture, a contest. And the best thing about this, there's no prize. It's just being in the game, just being in the magazine is what you'd win. Every month, we at Venture are forced with the mundane task of trying to impress and amuse you with our creative advertising campaign. Occasionally, 11 or 12 times a year, we completely and utterly fail. That's why this month we're trying something different. It's the chance of a lifetime for all of you young advertising geniuses to show us what your really good ads looks like. Here's all you have to do. Send a complete design of your idea. It should include negatives. Who has negatives when they're like 13? It should include negatives if it contains photos. Include your name, address, and phone number. Your ad will be judged by 4 of the most important advertising criteria. Originality. Has anyone else already done it? Impact. Will people notice it? Comprehensibility. Comprehensibility. Will people understand it? If they do, you're doing something wrong. I like that attitude. And 4, sales. Will it sell trucks? If it doesn't, you're out of a job. I thought that this was interesting that their whole ad campaign was, we don't have an idea, let's go with not having an idea. What we learned from social media, let's get the audience involved in it, right? The classic California cheapskates ads. These ads would stop me. For $42.50, you can get the OG Tommy Guerrero deck t-shirts for $10. And my parents still wouldn't buy them for me, and you could always send away to get the catalog, which was a religious moment. In here, you can see the Vision Psycho Stick, which was my very first deck. These were great. You could look through all the different items that you would want. Just the imagination of owning these different skateboards and the graphics and what they represented. This was a spot that would always stop me dead in my tracks. Over to the right, Tracker Trucks. Just Tracker Trucks. Just a logo, no call to action. That's all you need. It takes balls to do advertising like this, but what's more memorable, this or the Venture ad? And I got to interview founder Larry Bama of Tracker Trucks. Great guy. Interview in the AID archives. This ad on the left here, page 22, this is how you ruin an ad. This isn't what young skate rats want to see. This isn't what anybody wants to see. Maybe some people that have a hard on for spreadsheets would get into this, but this is a horrible ad. But to the right of it, when other companies were slick, some companies went the lo-fi route. And this style would eventually really catch on. It kind of created its own lo-fi sort of anti-art skateboard companies that were ironically really founded on the idea of their art. Jim Gray would go on to form Acme, which didn't look punk, but had the punk ideology completely down. They were one of the #1 shit stirrers in skateboarding. And this outsider look, it had legs. It questioned everything that was so slick, all the over-polished illustrations in other companies. This outsider, rough, lo-fi look, it had a way where you knew you were seeing something different. And this look would continue. Outsider of the outsider mentality. Skateboarders are already considered on the fringe. These guys were the fringe of the fringe. Love this art, love this style. Even more so, I love the attitude of it. Before we get into this, which I think is probably, spoiler alert, the best 2-page spread that we'll look today, and thank you so much Thrasher Magazine for making your archive available so that we can jump back into this. Let's think about how all of this is being made in 1988. What does 1988 design look like? Well, I researched it for you. You're welcome. This is the best Macintosh on the market. This is the best computer you could get. We'll assume that computers had to be used with a lot of this. Some of it you can tell was hand done, but this is the pimp ride of 1988. The Macintosh 2, made by the Apple Computer Company for $5,400, equivalent to $12,000 today. You could have this 32-bit Mac OS 7.6.1 computer, right? Can you imagine how this thing would fly? It had 1 megabyte of memory. expandable up to 8 megabyte if you're a baller, and 128 megabytes of a hard drive. Wow. How am I ever going to fill up this 128 megabyte hard drive? This little SD card has like 64 gigs on it. This phone has 256 gigs on it. Everything in this room has more power than this computer. The Macintosh 2 is a personal computer designed and manufactured and sold by Apple Computer from March 87 to January 1990. It's the first model of the Macintosh 2 family and the first Macintosh to support color display. Color might be important when you're doing design. When it was first introduced, a basic system with a 20 megabyte drive and monitor cost $5,400, equivalent to $12,000 today. With a 13-inch color monitor and 8-bit display, the price was $7,145, equivalent to $15,757 in 2018 money. Wow. So this is the tech that a lot of this is probably being made on. Or worse, this is the best. This is the pimp ride. Which now brings us to our best 2-page spread. Over on the left, we have Ricky Wenser, nothing but style here, with Circle A. More of that blockhead lo-fi look. And imagine you're going to pay for a full page ad and you run a little rectangle on a huge page. And the credit, you make that black on black. So the publisher has to run a whole page of black for your little business card size photo. All the information, handwritten info. This would end up being the look of every Discord Records album packaging 10 years down the road. But think about how anti-design, but designed this ad is. It's powerful. It grabs your attention. And on the other side of the page, not model pros. Well, that's kind of like not pro models. Schmidt Sticks with Bryce Knights and Alan Midget. Can you say Alan's last name these days? Look at this type, not pro models. That's not a font. That's done by hand. You got the black on black art that you have there in the backgrounds. The color grading of these photos, they're clipped out in full color. The background has purple laid over it. This is serious graphic design for 1988. Way ahead of 1988. This is why I love looking at these magazines. This is an ad, and I'm in love with it. Look at the way that the type flips around. Bryce Knights would go on to become a commercial photographer. Alan Midget just doesn't use his last name anymore because it's now the M word, and I said it twice. Sorry, short folks. Over here on page 42, we have t-shirts once again for $10. A t-shirt for $10 in the Vision Streetwear. I always wanted a pair of these with the marble sole, but guess what? $29.95 was too much to live my dream. I can't believe that's all they cost, and I still didn't get a pair. I would give anything to have a pair of classic Vision Streetwear with the marble sole. Over on page 43, look at the layering of this ad. You've got products laying on top of the ad. You have all the hardware layering everywhere, other ads in the background. This type of layering, this is thinking so outside of the box. It feels very tangible. It feels very real. Big ideas for a small time ad. And if you didn't know it, the skater in the bottom, that's Mark Gator Rogowski, who is doing time for the assault, rape, and murder of Jessica Bernstein, March 6, 1992. He's still in jail, and his life was chronicled in the critically acclaimed 2003 documentary, Stoke, The Rise and Fall of Gator. Check it out. One of the wildest stories, saddest stories of professional gone horribly wrong. Oh, look at me, I'm trapped in the barbed wire. Once again, how you ruin an ad. But you can get $25 for sending in the pick of the month, and it's going to look sweet in this black and white ad. Over to page 47, though, we have how you make a perfect ad. Here's my hero, dressed like a dad. You know, dads love weird, soft color shirts. Every shirt my dad wears is like a weird, soft color, and it's from some place that he's been before. It's almost like if my dad gets lost, he's going to try to use these shirts to find his way back home. Dads also love the softest denim on the planet. Look at Stacy Peralta. Dad shirt, soft denim, white workout shoes. This guy, though, is a dad. He's the dad, he's the father of 80s marketing of skate culture. And I mean heavy on the culture. He figured out how to market to the youth better than anyone, and he knew how to sell an attitude that in turn would sell the products. I love that it says boy in his ramp because he's far from being a boy. This guy is a legend. It's Stacy Peralta and his influence on me and the world of skateboarding, and my love of advertising and marketing cannot be stated. I could make a whole video just talking about this guy. One of my absolute dream interviews. Stacy Peralta, call me dad. The feature interview of this issue was Tommy Guerrero. Tommy was a master of style, and I still look up to him today. He was a street skater, started his own company called Real, made my favorite board of all time, and became a musician. Basically, from pro skater to company owner to musician, my heroes all taught me a big lesson. You never have to grow up. Fun has no expiration date. If there's time left on the clock, there's time left to do what you love, and always time to try something new. I love guys like Tommy Guerrero that go from thing to thing to thing, showing that they're truly an artist, and then whatever they're into, wherever their passion is, it leads them there, it drives them there, and they find success. One of the things I loved about skateboarding is it was always ahead of its time for diversity. It never tolerated racism. I never thought about why Tommy Guerrero was darker than me. I only thought about how could I be as cool as him. Style was always more important to me than tech. He's one of my all-time favorites for just simply being cool. Street skating, as Tommy's doing over here on the left, it liberated kids like me all around planet Earth. Seeing Tommy rip SF made your street feel special. Well, not San Francisco special, but it made just grabbing your board and going out on the road feel like you didn't need a bowl, you didn't need a fancy ramp. All you needed was you and the obstacles that were in front of you. Street skating taught you to adapt all obstacles, like a fence, or to turn civic design of drains into parks. Design is problem solving. Skateboarding taught me everything is possible. Only you stand in the way of you. These ideas from skateboarding, I always try to embrace in my design. And speaking of adopting the ideologies of skateboarding into your art, into your design, I pulled this little section out of Tommy Guerrero's interview from 1988, where he's talking about how he develops tricks. It's so rad when you learn the secret to something, because there's always a secret to a trick. And you go and you try something new, right? You keep trying, you fail. You think back to what you might have done wrong, you lean too much this way, or you grab too late this way, and I learned that you've got to think what you did wrong. I did an ollie to grab or something like that, and I fell back. So I realized that I tried to grab too early, so you just wait there a little bit longer, and then it's right there. It's really cool how you can figure things out. A lot of people don't even think about it. Mickey Alba told me this once. This is the big part. Visualize yourself doing it. Close your eyes, do it in your head, and go from there. And it holds true. You've got to really think to skate. Sometime your head is lost in a daze, and one of these days, you just can't do anything. This is the same as creativity. This is the same for everything in life. Visualize yourself doing it and do it. Look at what you did wrong, pivot and learn from there. There are no failures, just lessons on how to do it better. And speaking of doing it better, frontside gate twist at the bottom. Oh, how times have changed. Nobody's gate twisting anymore. Well, they're not doing the trick called the gate twist. Plenty of gate twisting, and I support it. I know there's not a ton of design on these spreads, but this is sort of the culture and the lifestyle of the sport that taught me so much about all the things that I would want to do and how to try to tell my story. Over on the left, you see the brotherhood. People everywhere watching. The platforms covered with guys waiting to get a run. Skateboard's a solo sport when you ride. It's a team sport when you watch it. When someone does something you love, you just can't help but be like, yeah. You feel their win, and it just makes you want to drop in and take a turn at it yourself. There's not enough room in today's video to talk about this guy on the right. Page 63, Mark Gonzalez, known as the Gons. Genius? I don't throw that term around, but he is one. The deck he's riding is still as bold and it is confusing. Think about what all the other graphics look like. I really don't know what this is. It's like fashion, it's pattern, it's abrasive, it's bright, it's Gons. Just look up Mark Gonzalez. Just look him up. Maybe I should just do a video all about him. Artist, skateboarder, innovator, just one of those guys, literally 10 steps ahead of everybody else his entire life. Wait up for us, Gons. We're trying to catch up. Here we have Lance Mountain, one of my favorite members of the Bones Brigade in Spain, Madrid, Spain. Watching these skaters go around the globe and reading the little captions of where they're at, it made me think about these places as something real, something more than my textbooks as a 14-year-old. It just was like, oh, they're skating in Madrid, Spain. I had no idea. Maybe that's a place that I should go to sometime. Once I had the privilege of sitting next to Lance Mountain at True Food Kitchen in Orange County. Like literally the booths are side by side. And my wife goes, what's the matter with you? Why are you acting so weird? And I couldn't tell her my childhood hero is sitting 2 feet from me. So she goes, why are you being so weird today? And I had to text her, I'm sitting next to Lance Mountain. And I got back, who's that? I've met him in passing, a great guy. and always just put humor above everything else. And I think that's why so many of us resonated with him. He was the guy that didn't think he was fancy, but he was the guy that felt like your friend. Over on page 65, this page is in Venice, California. A couple weekends ago, me and my wife, we had brunch. We walked over to Abbot Kinney. We walked over to the Venice Boardwalk. My wife hates the Venice Boardwalk. She hates it, and I understand why. It's covered in human trash. It's not the best place in LA to go to. I love it. I love going there. It's a holy ground, and I can't believe that I live here. I heard about Venice and Santa Monica my entire skating youth. To live down the road from it is just a complete dream come true. It's a pinch me moment. I can't believe I'm here. Every day, I can't believe I'm here. Over on the opposite page, we see Mike Mcgill, another member of the Bones Brigade. Mike was just a little bit too clean cut for me. I have nothing to prove this. He felt like a jock who skated. Just the vibe I got. I have no idea if he's a jock or not. He was just maybe too squeaky clean for me. And all my heroes, they have an edge to them. And I think skateboarding put that into my personality. But speaking of the edge, I think over here on page 67, I think this is what most people think skateboarding design and artwork looks like. Even back then, I thought this art was childish. And I was a child. I was 14 and I knew that this was kind of gross and that using an X for graphics is just, it's lame. It's new metal, bro. I will say this though, because I'd like to say something nice about everything. I do love those Jordans he's wearing. I would love to have had those Jordans, either the solid red and black or the blue and black. Those Jordans were the best Jordans. They were adopted as the official, not official, shoe of skateboarding. Page 70 brings up a classic theme: Tony Hawk or Christian Hosoi, Beatles or the Stones, or Beatles or Elvis. I don't have enough time to get into this. They were the opposite sides of the coin. Tony was tech, Christian was style. Tony was sloppy, Christian was smooth. Tony was humble, Christian, he was arrogant. He was real arrogant and a good looking guy. This could be its own video talking about these two. I was always team Tony, and to this day he remains a great role model. As successful as you can be from the sport, he's been adopted as the sports ambassador, and I really think that he's always upheld a high level of being a role model and being a hero and really bringing tons and tons of people into the sport. And he's done it all without eyebrows. I will say this: Hosoi is still cool and still a badass. I've seen him around and he still just has that vibe of like, not my favorite skater, but holy shit, there's Christian Hosoi. And I'd like to break down these action shots. We didn't have Vine, we didn't have GIFs, we didn't have YouTube. We had our imaginations. We had imaginations, and we had to look at these photos and try to imagine what happened between the shots. Old-timey, but boy, would it get you stoked. The article over on page 74 is about the NSA, which is the National Skateboarding Association, founded by Tony's dad, the late, great Frank Hawk. The NSA always got shit. Skateboarding is just chaos. It's complete chaos. Organizing it, you can't organize chaos. Organizing skateboarding is like planning on when the big earthquake will eventually hit California, and then Arizona directly becomes New California. They try to make it a sport for good reason. If it's a sport, then it equals money. If it has money, then it grows and more people can find it and it gets funded. But there was always an attitude that no one quite took the NSA serious. They loved to dump on it. They loved to give it shit. They would show up and compete, but nobody really took the NSA serious. Even when they won, they didn't take it serious. And I think this is something that I embrace, is like, be a part of the system, play along when you can, but don't take it too serious. Is there really winners and losers in the game of art or creativity? I just feel like if you're creating, you're winning. And who's to say I'm winning more than you? Well, maybe me because I'm arrogant like Christian Hosoi. It's one of those things where nobody took it serious. And I think it's nice to have something in life that you don't take serious, even though you know it's kind of serious. Opposite of me is Jason Jesse. What a legend. What a total badass. He seemed like that older kid in your neighborhood that you just desperately wanted to be friends with. Jason Jesse. Oh my God, Jason Jesse's driving by. Did he notice me? Did I say something stupid? Did I embarrass myself in front of Jason Jesse? If he said, hey, you want to hang out today? You would be terrified. You would be terrified to be with him, to do the things that he does, and he just was a legend that way. He was the scary older kid that you just wanted to be friends with, but you'd be too scared to be friends with him. And now one of my best buds does his hair. It's a small world, and I've had the original artwork of the Jason Jesse Sun God in my hands. I will say, best skate graphics of all time. Over to the left, we have a very important what is that? Like a quarter, 1/3, quarter of a page ad? 1/3 wouldn't be a quarter, would it? Who knows what size that ad is? I do know this. It's the biggest ad in the book in my heart. The Search for Animal Chin. These videos made by Pal Peralta, shot and directed by Stacy Peralta. I've watched them all over 100 times. They became a daily ritual. The first viewing made you feel numb. They're the single greatest example of everything you can do when marketing. Create a culture, create a lifestyle, create FOMO, and then take us along with you. I don't care that it was designed to sell merchandise because the message was so precious. Tell me that I want this, take me on the ride, show me the brotherhood, and I'll buy it. I don't care that they were trying to sell to me because they deserve to capture my sell. Marketing, when done right, tells you a story that you want to belong to. It's the way it should be. Stacy Peralta, dream interview. Call me Stacy. Page 81, this Stussy ad could be a photo on Instagram today. Basics run the distance. Keep that in mind when you shop and remind yourself that when you get dressed every morning. Basics run the distance. You'll always look cool if you keep it basic. Working classic. This ad that I'm in front of on page 106 looks absolutely horrible, but what's important here is page 107. Chris Miller. Probably my all-time favorite skater. And not because of how technical his tricks were, it was his style that I dreamt of when I dreamt of being great at skateboarding. Name a trick that he's known for, and I imagine Chris Miller's posture. I imagine his pose of that trick in my mind's eye. If you say a backside air or an indie, I actually see the way this guy does it. He is my Michael Jordan silhouette for all you basketball guys that are loving all of this Thrasher Magazine skateboarding talk. But aside from that, he was also an illustrator. He designed his own graphics. He did a lot of artwork for GNS. Then he would move over to starting Planet Earth. And Planet Earth was an art forward skate company at the time, and it was a design forward skate company. It was largely about the art and design that wrapped around Planet Earth, and a lot of it was done by Chris, and sort of once again this loose sort of lo-fi heavy line art that he did. He's still an artist today. He'd go on from doing Planet Earth, started Audio Footwear and sold it, and you know what happens when you sell footwear? Cha-ching. Somebody getting paid, and that's Chris Miller, to prove that he probably got paid selling his footwear company. He now makes men's surfing and yoga clothing. Typically a thing you either do if you have no money or don't need any money. As we start to wrap up today, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, I hope you enjoyed this journey. Over on the left, we see another ad from Pal, and this is all about the brotherhood. Skating was always about friendship and fun, or fun and friendship. But think about this from branding. You're putting the bro in branding. Show the fun and let the products sell themselves. So you see all of your favorite skaters, they're out somewhere on the road in a hotel together. Everybody's having fun. Yeah, they're wearing the gear, and yeah, some of the boards are in the room, but it was about the friendship. And for those of us that were isolated skate rats spread all around, you just thought, man, to be so good at skateboarding that it took you around the world and that you had friends that would do it. These type of ads were always just precious because you just wanted to be in the room. You wanted to know what was funny. Something else was a reoccurring article, and article is putting it light. It was always a photo with a caption on it, and it was always at the very end. And so it was sad to hit the end of that issue of Thrasher, but it was always a treat. It was always something, just something else, something funny, something that's going on. Freedom of choice. Some skaters choose to perform beyond the norm, while others prefer to skate safe. During the past summer at Donner Ski Ranch, one balls out dude went for a handstand on 5 skate decks and paid some dues. Photo, Bryce Kanights. Bryce Kanights just popping up everywhere. Maybe that's somebody I need to interview. You would always just love seeing, you know, this guy who was falling. Today, this would be a viral video because we'd actually get to see the fall and not imagine what was going to happen next. Page 112, Eric Dressen, another one of those skaters that I still love today. He just skates with so much style. I believe he's wearing those Jordans that I talked about. I couldn't totally get my eye in there close enough to see what. But he's another one of my favorites. Just nothing but style and still rips hard today. Follow him on Instagram. Didn't write me back when I asked for an interview, but I follow him on Instagram and he's still just out there ripping. Indy always had this spot. When you opened up Thrasher, it was always Santa Cruz in the front spread, and in the back was Indy and Pal Peralta. And even though I've always loved the branding of Indy, this may be the worst independent truck company logo ever. Kids, gradients, aren't your friends. But I love the layout of this ad. I know it's basic, but just think about it. Like, they didn't feel the need to make the whole thing big. And we know there's an expletive up there in the top corner. Like, it's just design thinking. Maybe not the most complex design thinking, but it's design thinking. And it got me thinking at an early age about how you do design, composition, and layout. And last but not least, Powell Peralta always had this spot. Once again, no real product, no direct message, just attitude. Now, the cool kids would parody them and pick on them eventually, right? Like, you can't stay cool forever. But there was a time when everyone loved Powell Peralta. There was a time when everybody looked up to what they were doing. The tides will always turn against you, and they would get poked on, and they would be seen as the big corporation. But there was a moment what they were doing was working, and I learned from it. Just like I learned on the wave of the attack, all the lo-fi companies that would go after them and have the mindset of, if we can take the biggest guy off the block, then we can become the next big guy. And I enjoyed watching that wave too. It was a really nice flow of, this is how you set up marketing and branding principles, and this is how you become the outsider in the outsider industry and take them down. But why not we end here today with a little racism or cultural appropriation? You'd be crazy to run this ad today. It doesn't bother me personally, but I'm sure it's pushing some buttons somewhere. Thank you, Thrasher Magazine. Thank you, Thrasher Magazine, for putting your archives over on your website. I don't know if you know what a great service that you did to the community, and I hope you had fun watching this. What do you think? Should we do it again for April? Pick a random year of the month of April and go through and look at it. Hopefully you learned some things about design, and if you're a skater, you got to think of some of the old greats and reminiscent of some of these ads that all raised us. I love this stuff. I learned so much from it. It's impossible to try to teach everything that I learned, but hopefully we had some good times and got a couple of delicious chicken nuggets. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you even more for liking, commenting, or following along with the channel. Good day. See you later, skater.